dress and the rest of this dress. Theoretically, everybody's should be the same, so if you didn't bring yours, you can use somebody else's to trace off, theoretically. Just make sure if you're borrowing their front one, also borrow the back one. That way they'll sew together and match up. All right. So this guy is the pattern for this. It has a French dart. The French dart is 2 inches above the waistline. You guys did a French dart exercise, so we're doing it the exact same way. You can choose to either slash and spread to get your French dart manipulated in the right place, or you can do pivotal transfer to get your French dart in the right place. Either way, what? Oh, we love pivotal transfer. I pivotal transferred mine onto here. So what you're going to do is you're going to trace off your pattern and pivotal transfer your dart over if you'd like, or slash and spread it to that area. You're also going to mark that bust radius. We only need to worry about the top part, so you don't need to draw a full 3-inch circle. Remember that you should have a 3-inch punch hole on your sloper, so you can just use your sloper as a compass to draw in this top part. Now you see how this neckline is cut away. It's cut away from the center neck area here, and actually the shoulder tip is cut away as well. So if we look at our contour darts, what I've colored in here, this is actually cut off about here, and we're crossing over some of these wedges of purple, right? So anytime we cut off and we're crossing over one of these contour wedges, we need to close those wedges up. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that here, as well as adding this little off-the-shoulder sleevey thing, okay? So what do we need to do? We need to trace off our bodice. We need to manipulate our dart around. I've marked in my contour lines based on what I have marked in here, okay? And now I need to add in this little sleeve business. And I'm going to be following along on page 354 and, no, sorry, 355 through 357. 355 is a basic drop shoulder, which is, they've incorporated a cap sleeve as one piece with the bodice. So it's almost like this without the seam here. So we're going to start off by adding the little cap sleeve to our bodice, and then we're going to cut away the neckline afterwards. So what we need to have is we need to have a tracing of the top part of your sleeve with a center line and a bicep line. Cut it out. And then what I've done is we need to locate halfway between here and here, and I think the easiest way to do it is just to fold the cap down until it meets the bicep line. Okay, and we're going to open that up, and I drew a line along that fold. So imagine this little bit here is kind of like this little portion of the dress that I'm wearing. All right. We're going to add a little contour because it's going to be wrapping around the arm. So what the book has us do is drop down from that fold line 1/2 inch. You see I've squared a little line. And what we're going to do is blend that with kind of a smile shape. So from here, curve up to that point. From here, curve up to that point.
So the 1/2 inch is on the center line?
On the center, yeah. So we're going to blend 1/2 inch from the center to nothing at the side, or the little seam, armhole seam. And you're going to need to do this blending in 2 passes. So you'll hold your French curve that way to get that side, and then flip it to get the other side. Okay, so we want that kind of a shape. This intersection here and here, they're calling that the X point. So you can put a little X in both of those intersections. Okay, X and X. And we're going to be taping these little top wedges onto this pattern, and we're going to hold on to the bottom part that we cut away to help measure to find where the X is on our own bodice patterns, where the equivalent is. So how that's going to work, I'm going to cut away the little wedge that's representing the front half of the sleeve cap, so the side that has the single notch. I'm going to cut along the curve, and I'm going to cut down my center line. So I have half of a sleeve cap, just the front one. I'm going to save the back one for later when it's time to do the back. If I cut it out now, invariably I'll lose it. So I like to keep that intact. So what we need to do now is we need to find this distance on here. So you can measure this distance and measure this distance, or you can put this curve around the armhole curve on your traced bodice and sort of pivot around. So this level hits here on my armhole on my bodice. So this is if I were to sew this sleeve in, this would be sewn flat and smooth there without any additional ease. This mark here, it's not the same place as where that notch is, because you'll notice our notch is lower than that mark. Anyway, the notch isn't in the middle of this armhole. So this is kind of like, if you remember 108, that's kind of like the mid armhole pin location, sort of. And we're going to call that guy X. Or have I already lost my cap?
Right here.
Thank you. All right, so turn the page. We'll go back to this page when it's time to do the back view. The back view doesn't have shoulder darts, so it tells us to manipulate the shoulder dart into the armhole. And we've done that before, but it'll tell you to do that on here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our little piece and we're going to line up the X with the X, and we're going to secure it. Got a little present in there. We're going to secure this down with a specified amount of space. There is some curvature happening in the shoulder. We know we have some extra ease in this armhole that we don't necessarily need for this, especially this dress, because we're going to be cutting away the whole top. But if we were just wanting to do a regular drop shoulder dress, what we're going to do is we're going to line up the X, and then we're going to pivot this piece until there's a 1/4 of an inch space between the shoulder tip on the pattern and the sleeve piece. So you can even put a little mark if you wanted to, a 1/4 of an inch away from the shoulder tip here. So I want, can I write a 4 upside down? I don't know. Okay, I want a 1/4 inch there. And so I'm going to pivot that until this little sleeve cap hits that 1/4 inch mark. And I'm going to secure it down.
And what does that 1/4 inch do?
Well, we're going to be lopping off some of this. If we curve that out, we're kind of cutting off a 1/4, so we're adding it back in there. And I think it just gives the right angle, if I were to guess.
Since it's sitting kind of tight across her armhole, you would need a little bit more room up in the top. Is that why?
Yeah, just for movement.
Yeah, for movement.
We are
Since
going to be
it's sitting
cutting.
here.
Yeah, we are going to be cutting this off. Do you see how
Yeah.
that's sticking up above? So this ultimately gets rounded out, kind of like that. And so this little part that gets cut off is kind of getting
Needs
added
to
back
get
in
some-
the, yeah,
to put somewhere else.
exactly. So that's actually the next step. We need to blend this area here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up a 1/4 of an inch from the shoulder tip. So we sort of went out a 1/4, now we're going up a 1/4. And we're going to be blending, not quite from the neck, but from sort of mid-armhole area. We're going to be blending kind of a gentle shoulder curve. Think about the shape of the human body. There's the shoulder socket, which is kind of the shape of this French curve. And we're going to be blending from, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of the way to the neck, to this 1/4 inch point, and then down into the sleeve. So you can kind of, I think I usually have to do it in a couple passes.